What are the steps to freedom, to realizing the state of freedom? The cause of the absence of freedom is your identification with the mind and believing it to be a valid mediator between you and life, between you and yourself. Therefore, the way to freedom is by severing that link of belief you have with the mind. That is done through 3 steps. First is to acknowledge the problem, to realize it. You need to conceptually and experientially notice how you are bound and identified with the mind. Without realizing the problem, it's very difficult to solve it. Second step is about discovering your true self as opposed to the mind. You started off by doing the practice of disidentification from the mind, where you replace the habitual participation in whatever the mind manifests in watching it. That creates the distance and allows you to separate between these 2 layers, the mind and yourself. The culmination of this process, of this practice, happens when you not only watch the mind and find yourself removed from the flux of it, you discover the very subject to it, not just watching the mind, which is already an improvement, but discovering the very one to whom all this movement pertains. When you discover yourself in a true way, stay as your own self, and through the practice of self-remembrance, which is constantly returning to that presence, to that sense of self, it becomes your primary identity. It becomes who you are, which is anyway who you are, but it becomes also your conscious experience, stable and conscious experience. That represents a massive improvement, which will manifest in all areas of your life. However, that's not yet freedom. Freedom happens in the next step, when you're not only having a distance from the mind, being disidentified from it, knowing yourself even. It happens when you directly disbelieve the mind. You need to go back to where the mind is and see directly its unreal nature. Before that, the mind and your essence, your real self, are sharing the definition of reality. Maybe you, as your essence, even take the deeper stance. You are the deeper level of your existence, but as long as the mind is given a chunk of the definition of reality, you cannot be free. Because the mind is the bondage. That not that the mind is the believing the mind to be a valid mediator is the reason for your suffering. So from the position of knowing yourself, you come back to the mind, and just where it is, you replace it by seeing, by the only way possible, by seeing its illusory nature. You can't remove it, you can't do anything with it. You only can discover its unreal nature, and then no longer are you under the illusion of its mediation. Freedom is to see the real as real and the unreal as unreal. First, you discover how much you are bound by the unreal. Next, you discover the real in the form of your own identity and the underlying silence, which is the now. And final and liberating step is to go back to the mind and see the unreal as unreal, to invalidate it from its source. Then, nothing stands in the way for freedom, peace, beauty to flower, because this is your natural state. It's there already now, but due to believing the mind, you are not in touch with it. By removing the fundamental belief in the mind, you simply discover who you are and what life is.